Hi, welcome to the Forecasting for Success podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brie. I'm a doctor of psychology, financial educator, astrologer, and founder of Forecasting for Success, a community of people improving their financial literacy to achieve financial independence. I blend my expertise as a former professor and financial intelligence analyst with the tool of astrology to help break down why you are struggling with specific money habits and the best way to form more intentional responses and choices when it comes to money, especially to help you feel more secure in your financial decisions and improve your money skills for building long-term wealth. Welcome back to the Forecasting for Success podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review the show because those little things really help me and the podcast. Plus, I love seeing your positive messages and how you're learning and actioning tips from the podcast in your life. And I'm so excited to share today's conversation with Sophie. She's a true trailblazer and an amazing online business coach who has built her life and work completely on her own terms. From climbing the ladder in the fashion industry to leaving it all behind to create a business that supports freedom, balance, and purpose. Sophie's story is one you're going to find both inspiring and practical. What I love most about our conversation is that Sophie doesn't just talk about big dreams theoretically. She gives real, actionable advice that you can apply to your own life and business right away. I know you'll walk away from this episode with tools and insights that can help you redefine success on your own terms too. So let's get started. So welcome, Sophie. It's so nice to have you here today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I think what I would love to do is to start out with who you are and your area of expertise in order for the audience to get to know you better.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Sophie. I am an online business coach and I have been in entrepreneurship probably for the past 5 years now. So I've been in the world of online business. My expertise are in the world of online business. Prior to that, I was focused in the e-commerce space. So I held a long career, actually, an 11-year career in the fashion industry, working for some of the world's biggest fashion brands, including Ralph Lauren, Burberry, Kate Spade, and Diesel. And in the pandemic, like many people, decided to transition my life away from that corporate world. It wasn't really working for me, to be honest. It wasn't working for me way longer before than I actually left. But it took me time to gather up that courage and actually make that transition. And the idea wasn't actually to start an online business. It was actually to go traveling and see more of the world. I'd been traveling various times throughout that career and always wanted to incorporate travel into my life. So my plan was, when we went into lockdown, was actually to go traveling. But obviously I got stuck in London and then ended up having already left my job. I needed to start to do something on my own because there was nothing really going at the time in the fashion industry. So I ended up offering out my services on a freelance basis to different e-commerce businesses. I was thinking, if I've already done all of these strategies and managed a £380 million business for some of these corporations, I can absolutely replicate those strategies on a smaller scale for smaller businesses. So that was my concept. I moved over to the world of e-commerce coaching and supported over 100 e-commerce business founders set up and grow their businesses. And then it kind of got to a place where I was really comfortable with how that was going. And I ended up, again, going back to my travel ideas, my travel plans. I ended up moving my life to Bali and I ended up moving over to Indonesia, running my business from there until I kind of realized that I was burning out because I was trying to run a business on London speed on an island, which doesn't really work. So I ended up burning out. I'd already burned out a couple of times before that in the year before I went to Bali. So at this point, I started looking at it and being like, okay, something's going wrong here. If you keep ending up in the same situation, if you're continuing to burn out, something's going wrong in your life. So is that something that you're doing? So I had to take a really hard look at myself and be like, okay, what is going wrong here? And I realized my business wasn't working for me anymore. The business that I'd set up on London time was absolutely not serving me in the way that I wanted it to serve me whilst I was living in Indonesia. So I ended up pivoting again and kind of moving into more like online course space, digital products, memberships, that kind of thing, more away from like the freelance and the consulting that I had been doing in London and stepping more into trading less time for money, essentially. So still doing some mentoring, still doing some coaching, but more so trying to establish this business from a digital product space. And I found various different levels of success with different things that I tried. I've pretty much tried to sell everything you can sell and figured out what works for me and in the way that it works for me. And then continued with that. So I kind of went from that 9 to 5 corporate career, living on an island and repivoting my life after 5 years of starting a business. And then it kind of got to the middle of last year and I realized my business is no longer working for me again. And this was a couple of years after the first pivot. So I ended up pivoting again, and I realized that I had all of these skills to help people that were like me 5 years ago to use their skills, use their passions, and build their own online business, because I've seen how much freedom that's given me. I now live in Thailand. I'm fully in control of my time, my location, and my finances, and freedom is such a big value for me, and I know it is for other people. But a lot of people, we were actually talking about this just before we jumped on the recording, a lot of people get scared to transition their life and change something about their circumstances. So I'm now what I would call an expert in online business and building an online business that actually works for your life, and one that gives you a healthy work-life balance, because I do not want to go back to that burnt out version of me that I was in a couple of years ago. So that's where I'm at today, is helping people start and grow their online businesses with work-life balance in mind.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so excited for you that you were able to make that transition, because it makes such a world of difference that you're able to have that level of autonomy and control, that you're able to recognize something needs to evolve. Like I've evolved, my situation has evolved. And so you're able to have that level of control and autonomy to say the business now evolves with me as well, that you don't have to scramble for a new location or a new company, an external company, and try to make it fit. And you're able to make sure that everything lifts as you lift and evolve as well. So that's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I think if there's anything that's certain in life, it's that everything is always changing, right? And I believe that if we are not constantly evolving and changing, then we're probably kind of stuck, or we might be content and happy, but usually it's because we are content in the discomfort, comfortable in the discomfort. So I personally feel like if I'm not growing and evolving, and then neither is my business, right? So like as I've grown, my business needed to grow with me. And these are all the pivots that I've had to make. And I know a lot of people get really scared, like when it gets to a point where they're no longer enjoying it, or like it's not working for them anymore, and they end up going back to their corporate world. So they kind of take 10 steps backwards to go to where they once left and didn't want to be anymore. My life mission is to never go back to that purpose. So I'm constantly pivoting as and where I need to make sure that I stay on track to achieve the goals that I've got, which essentially is to never have to work for somebody else again.
In my opinion, that's the right answer.
Yeah.
Exactly. Also, that's the goal.
Exactly. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's so many benefits to working a 9 to 5. Obviously, you've got so much stability. And if you're working for the right company and something that you really enjoy doing, stay there, do it. Like, there's nothing wrong with working on a 9 to 5. But for me personally, it just did not work for me. So I tried, right? I was in a corporate world for 11 years, and I constantly would get to a point in every job that I had and be like, I just hate this. Like, what am I doing? There's so many office corporate politics. I hate playing games. And there was so much game playing in the fashion industry and like one-upping everybody else. It wasn't a very nice environment. And maybe if I'd have had a career in a different industry, I might feel differently about that.
Sure.
But ultimately, that was the career that I had. That's my experience. And personally for me, it wasn't, there were great moments and I gained a lot out of it, of course. But as a whole, did I ever feel like that was the right thing for me? Probably not. But I did need to go through that to get me to where I needed to be today.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it sounds like what you realized is that your environment did not match your values, like your personal values, and you understood the importance of doing a pivot, that it's important to not try to force that or to prolong your suffering, if you will, and being in an environment that is just not feeding your soul and matching with your level of ambition and where you're trying to go. So it's really good that you decided to take control of your situation and your life and not prolong that unnecessarily.
Absolutely. I think environment is everything. And if it's like one of my old business partners said that if we're like plants, right? Humans are like plants. If we're potted in the wrong environment, in the wrong soil, in the wrong pot, we're never going to reach our full potential to grow into what we could potentially be. And that's the same if you are in a living circumstance, like that doesn't serve you and doesn't fulfill you, doesn't allow you to be who you want to be. And for me personally, the reason I've decided to live more nomadically and I've moved abroad multiple times and now I currently live full-time in Thailand is because the UK didn't offer me what I needed. That wasn't the right environment for me. And that's not to say I'm here right now. That's not to say I never come back here. Of course I do. I've got family, friends, all the things. But you know, it's raining outside every day pretty much. I can't go for long beach walks. It's very expensive. So to get access to all of the things that I love to do, which is like yoga, Pilates, and doing all of those nice things like sitting in a coffee shop all day working, like it's not achievable here as much as it is where in the environments that I put myself in. Same with like the mindset of the people, very different to the mindset of the people that I surround myself with in this new nomadic life that I've created for myself. So, you have to be around the right people and surround yourself in the right environment for you to allow yourself to be in an environment for you to grow. Otherwise, you can really feel it. You'll feel it in your body, you'll feel it in your mental health and in your physical health, that environment is not right for you. It's almost like we're trying to like burst out of something, but we can't quite make it because the hole's not big enough to get out, for example. But like you mentioned, it's a choice. Like I chose to change that. So everybody's got a choice, and obviously everyone's circumstances are different, so the length of time that it might take you to get to where you want to be is going to vary, but I think everyone has the choice to take one step forward towards where they want to be, regardless of how long that's going to take them to get to their end destination.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree. And I really feel you because I did the same thing as well. I just realized that the environment for me in the United States did not match my personal values and where I was trying to go in my life. It just was no longer supported in that environment. And so I also made the decision to move to Germany back in 2017. So it's something that I try to encourage others to do to help them understand, like you said, even if it does take someone else a longer period of time to make a transition, it's important for them to realize that a transition is possible. And it's really important for their well-being, either in the short term or the long term, for at least the seed to be planted that more is possible. And you do have control over making choices to get you where you really want to be or where you really want to go.
Absolutely. I actually did a meditation retreat quite recently, and the one thing that came up for me, so this was a 4-day silent meditation retreat. It was a walking meditation,
Oh,
and we
wow.
were in Thailand, and it was like on a 15 meters platform, and you're walking back and forth for 4 hours a day for 4 days in silence on concrete. So it's very boring, but like obviously your
It
mind
sounds
wanders.
introspective.
Yeah, very. Or you've got some nice scenery to look at, but that's about it. So like the goal is obviously to focus on clearing the passing thoughts, or like allowing it to come up and then just like sit with it and then see if you can move on from it. So one of the things that really struck me, so at the time, this was around the time of the Israel and Iran war. Now, I'm not Israeli, I'm not Jewish, but like I was in a meditation retreat with 9 Israeli people.
Oh, wow.
And all of them were going through obviously some very traumatic and like heavy things. And I couldn't necessarily fully relate. I'd understood the situation, but I can't obviously relate to how they're feeling. But one thing that I realized, that we all, regardless of our background, regardless of what's happening in our lives, one thing I realized as I was walking on that first day is like, we all chose to be here. We all chose to show up for ourselves today in whatever way we needed. Like I needed to go there for whatever reason. They all needed to go there for whatever reason. But one thing we all had in common, regardless of our background, regardless of our upbringing, regardless of where we're from, is that we all chose to come and take this experience today. And I think that was a really powerful moment for me, because I was like, oh, like one thing that we all have in common in the world is choice. Like we all are allowed to make choices. And don't get me wrong, there is a caveat obviously with countries that have different political circumstances and things like that. Like I understand that not everybody has choice privilege, but like in our Western world, like where we do have more of a choice privilege, like we can take steps to change. But like I said, it just depends on like how long that might take you to actually get to where you want to be. But I think the power of choice is like such a privilege and such a one that can change our lives, honestly.
Yes, absolutely. And you're right that it is a spectrum. And so the room of choice obviously differs for each person based on culture and country and things like that. So, yes, unfortunately, there are always caveats, and it might take people longer than they would like or prefer in some situations. But it's really important to understand whether you're going through a really difficult time or maybe just a more existential moment, that there are important levels to understanding why you need to make a change and then deciding to action whatever is within your control. And I think that's the really important piece, whether someone's going through a very difficult time and they just need hope in order to get to a better spot one day, or if they've just reached a point in their life, even if everything looks good on paper, internally you can feel something needs to be different, and just taking the time to work through that rather than suppressing it or just keeping yourself stuck when that's not necessary.
Exactly. And I think one of the biggest things that can help people is expansion. So seeing like other Americans, seeing you move to Germany, for example, and be like, oh my God, if she's done it, like, so can I. And like
Mhm.
other people that were stuck in their 9 to 5 5 years ago thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get out of this? Seeing me going and moving abroad and like starting my own business, like seeing other people that look like you are from the same place, are within this version of you, your past you, right? Like that can be really powerful. And I think expansion is something that is the first step to making those changes, because ultimately if you can't see it to be possible for yourself, you can't see it to be true for you. So you have to look for what you want in other people and see how you can take the change and take the steps to get to that as well.
Yes, exactly. And I love finding that connection with people, whether it be online or in person, just to understand that there are others like us and other similarities out there. And it's so nice to find that community, because that's what can span cultures and languages and things of this nature, is to know that you might not be in a situation to where things quite fit, but it is possible. It is out there. And to me, that should hopefully bring people excitement and possibilities and things that are more positive for them to work towards.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree.
Whenever you're helping your clients, do you have to speak to this sometimes? Do you have to speak to trying to help them overcome any fears or uncertainties with where they're trying to go?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in entrepreneurship, like the one thing most entrepreneurs have in common is that there's always going to be some kind of limiting belief that holds them back in terms of where they want to be. And I always look at entrepreneurship and life in general as like a video game. It's like you'll work your way up to one level, maybe you overcome like one specific limiting belief that's holding you back, right? But then you need to get to level 2. So you've got the next goal and then you need to overcome a next hurdle. So it's a constant evolution. So when I'm working with clients, like the number one thing that I work on right at the beginning with any client is like identify like what are the things that could potentially hold them back.
Mm.
Because if you can preempt it and identify it earlier on, obviously you've got better chance of succeeding later on. And a lot of people don't realize that. I think I didn't either when I was first starting this journey. I've just come to learn that this is all part of it. It's a massive self-development journey is what entrepreneurship is.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's ultimately like I believe that if you can really face your challenges and your beliefs about yourself like really earlier on, you're going to have so much more success, because there's going to be less barriers, less things holding you back throughout your journey, which is inevitably going to come with ups and downs. So yeah, with most of my clients now, I do a little bit of mindset work right at the beginning before we even get started working on whatever it is their goals are to achieve.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm happy to hear you say that, because I've also experienced it as well with the way that I work one-on-one with people, is that they might understand or accept that something's a possibility, but there's something holding them back. There's some type of defensive mechanism or barrier to where they're not quite ready to start taking the baby steps. And I've realized that if I help them think through in a very realistic and actionable way, to walk them through the baby steps that this is what you do first, and then this would be the next step, and then the next. And once they dial down or dial back the fear and think through realistically in the real world how they would begin moving towards something, I've noticed that that does kind of help people not be so resistant to change or the possibility of change, and make that first, I guess, leap into the idea and the movement of, okay, maybe things can be different or better.
Yeah, definitely. You need to address it, right? To be able to tackle it. The first step to overcoming anything is self-awareness. So to understand it is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself, really, is to understand what's holding you back, and then you can take steps to overcome it.
Yes, exactly. I would actually love to hear more about how you're helping people right now. I would love to hear more about your expertise and how you're working with people one-on-one or in groups.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, I am working with a mix of different things, but like my whole concept is to create freedom, right? Like, so create freedom for yourself through online business as the vessel. So whatever freedom looks like to you, freedom doesn't look the same for how it looks like for me versus how it looks like for you versus how it looks like for my clients. Like everybody has their own version of what freedom looks like. For me personally, it was moving the ability to move abroad and take my work with me. So there's different levels of freedom. There's time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom, and emotional freedom, and all of the above, right? Like with some of them, you have the ability to merge some of those together. So everything I do right now is focused on helping people create that freedom for themselves through starting an online business, and allow them to create that online business really sustainably around something that they love doing, they're good at doing, and something that allows them to have like a really healthy work-life balance, because I'm all about balance. So I do that through working with people on a one-on-one basis. I do one-on-one coaching with people. It's usually a 3-month program where I work with someone, start off with the limiting things that might be holding them back, and then look at what their goals are and see how we can get them closer to those goals and work backwards from that. And then I also have a group coaching / online course hybrid program, which is called the Freedom Model Method. And essentially that is a formula that I've come up with, a method that I personally used to create freedom for myself in my world. And now I'm teaching that to other people. And that is through, like, the educational part of that is through an online course. And then I also offer interactive support from me on a group level in the group coaching program. So they're the main things that I am working to at the moment. And then I also have free resources. So I have like the podcast that I've got called the Remote CEO Life, where I share bits about my life, but also have other guests on there that are experts in their field, experts in online business, in certain areas of online business, to give their expertise to people that are wanting to get into that space or are struggling in that space and they need a bit of inspiration. Going back to the conversation we had around expansion and seeing it to be possible for yourself, that's the goal with that podcast, is to expand people into what is possible for them. So they're the main things that I'm working on at the moment. The main way that I support clients is mainly through my Freedom Model Method and my one-on-one coaching.
That's incredible. And it's such helpful, necessary work too. It's amazing that you're able to help people in this way. And I'm so glad that you shared the part of your story that mentioned burnout, which is unfortunate. I'm sorry that that happened to you. And as you know, it is happening to a lot of other people, unfortunately, as well. Are there any starting points or non-negotiables for you of you saying, whether it's for yourself or what you recommend to clients, of just saying, this is how you create a boundary, or this is where an identifiable burnout indicator, maybe if someone's suppressing that or not really keying into what's happening to them? I would love to hear more of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's really hard because often when you're in a burnout, it's too late. You're already in it. Like, you don't realize it unless you have a high level of self-awareness, which I would say I do, but I still have found myself in those situations in various moments. So I think the key to being able to eliminate or overcome a burnout is that self-awareness piece and understanding what is your baseline, what is your normal. So if you're waking up every day, you've got loads of energy and you crack on with your day straight away, you get to go to the gym and you do all of these things. If you start to notice any of those things dropping off, there's probably a problem for whatever reason. Maybe you've got something stressful going on in your life. Maybe you are burnt out. Maybe you've just got a different focus in that time. Fine. But like, you need to understand why. And you need to understand like what is causing you not to wake up and feel loads of energy every morning. Why aren't you going to the gym? Why aren't you focused on the things that you want to focus on? Because if you can understand why, then you can eliminate the problem, the thing that is holding you back from actually getting you closer. And I think the other thing is that people tend to do too much. And I've been so guilty of this. And I've had to really start understanding like what's a need to do versus what's a want to do. And the power of saying no.
Yes.
And understanding like, okay, if I feel some level of, let's say I've got a client and I'm dreading showing up to their call every week. Like, I'm like, oh God, I've got to speak to that girl again. Like, I don't really want to speak to her. There is clearly a misalignment in our engagement, right? So I think it's, like understanding like how you do feel on a regular basis. And if anything ventures away from that, why? What is the problem? What is happening? Like, why don't I want to show up and speak to this client every week? What is it about that? And then looking at what can you do to change that. So maybe it's just one specific thing about this client. Like, for example, I don't like the way she talks to me. Maybe I could then sit down and have a conversation and be like, hey, look, like this is a boundary of mine that you've crossed. Like, can we sort this out? If not, then maybe we're not best to work together. But I think what happens quite often, the reason why so many people do get to burnout, from whether it's with clients or whether it's just like they're overworking and taking on too many things, it's usually comes from a place of fear, because we are scared that we're not going to earn money. We're scared to lose the client. We're scared of what people are going to think of us. Like 9 times out of 10, it's coming from a place out of fear. So I think it's about like understanding and getting to the bottom of what that fear is, and which is again why I like to try and address these fears and the limiting beliefs and stuff right at the beginning, because then it's no surprise when it comes up, and then it's way easier to control. Whereas if you learn it whilst you're in the burnout, you then have to take quite a lot of steps backwards to take one step forward. So self-awareness basically is the biggest tool that you're going to have when it comes to managing or overcoming a burnout.
Yes, completely. And I'm so excited that this is the type of work that you're doing because it's so necessary and it's really helpful because being very direct and actionable with our intentions and our language, it is a struggle for a lot of us. And I definitely included myself. I include myself in that, especially whenever I was less experienced professionally. Like you said, it's very scary and challenging in order to be direct with people about what you need and what needs to happen. And it's a very cliche saying, but many times, whenever we appropriately handle a situation and say, like, this just is not working for me, it's important to remember that you really are opening yourself up to better opportunities and better potentials to fill that with something that does fulfill your needs, whether that be financially or just professionally.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
Was being a digital nomad, was that something that was natural for you because you enjoy traveling and experiencing new things, or was it a transition for you?
I've been traveling since I was 21 and I'm now 33. So I think for me, it was a very natural thing. Like, it is the most normal thing in the world for me to pack a suitcase and leave and do something. And a lot of people will say, well, what are you running away from? Let me tell you, you cannot run away from yourself. And
Mm.
I've tried and you cannot. So yes, you can change environments, but it's not called running away. It's running towards something that you want to change in your life. If you want to be in a different environment, I'm running towards that, not running away from the old one. So for me, it is a very natural thing to do. I just think travel is part and parcel of my life. Did I mean to be a digital nomad? Not necessarily, honestly. Like, that was never really the plan. Like I said, started traveling when I was 21. I went through a period of like going on long backpacking trips, quitting my job and like going and doing these backpacking trips and then coming back. And I was like a boomerang for many years, always back to the UK. I did move abroad when I was 23. I moved to Italy for 18 months. And then again, I came back to the UK. Then I always had jobs that allowed me to travel with my job. So I was like part-time in New York, part-time in Europe, part-time all over the place. So when it came to getting stuck in lockdown, honestly, that was very challenging for me because I
Mm.
was so used to being on the go all the time and traveling all the time. So that was the first time that I had a lot of time to just sit and be in one place in the UK. And it got to a point where that's really where I realized, like, this isn't actually the right environment for me. And obviously it wasn't probably a very good environment for anyone in lockdown, but like in extreme circumstances, I think it shows you what you do need. And yeah, I ended up moving to Bali and was living in Bali. Like, I wouldn't even say I was nomading in Bali. I was living there, and eventually got to a point where I didn't want to be in Bali anymore. And I ended up just naturally, accidentally falling into being a nomad and decided to move myself to Thailand, which is where I would currently call home today.
That's incredible. And I'm really excited to hear that that was just a natural way for you to understand that it lights up your soul, like it really lights up who you are, that traveling is natural for you, that it really does fulfill like an inner need and it makes you happy.
I think so. I think it's just ingrained in me. And like, if you look back in my journals from when I was like 10 years old, it always says, I want to move abroad. I want to move to Spain. So I think I've always known that I was meant to travel in some way. And like I say, it just allows me to have the lifestyle that I want to live. So it's a very important part of my life, and freedom is a very big value for me. So
Very much.
definitely ticks that box.
Yeah, same for me. It was just a natural progression for me as well, just to understand that traveling really does make me happier. I'm happier whenever I have that level of freedom and autonomy, like you're saying. And I feel like traveling and experiencing new places and new cultures, it really does feed me in a way that other avenues of learning and experiencing the world just doesn't, it's not at the same level. So I'm also happy as well whenever I can see and do new things in the world.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know about you, but I'm a kinesthetic learner, which means I learn by doing. So naturally,
Ah.
if I want to learn about other cultures, if I want to learn about other cuisines or whatever, like, I'm going to learn by actually being immersed in that place. And I would say, like, my knowledge of the world is so vast now since I started traveling, and I've got so much more of an open mind than I would have had I have not had half of these experiences. So I think it really does open you up to like so much. And I would like to hope that most people get a chance at some point to do some traveling outside of their home town or country, because I think it's really important to see how other people live. Like, it's very different in very different areas of the world. So I think that's a really powerful thing if you can experience that.
You put that so well. That's lovely. And I agree completely because I'm also a much more kind and open-minded person due to being able to personally experience the world in new and different ways that you just can't get from a book or a movie or other avenues. So I agree. I think it's really helpful and beneficial anytime someone's able to travel as well.
Yeah, super fun.
Mhm. What also interests me about your work is that you're a mental health advocate too. Would you mind speaking to that about why it's important to you and also how you incorporate that into your offerings?
Definitely. So, yeah, absolutely. I have had my own personal struggles with my mental health over many years. I would say definitely most of my 20s, I was like riddled with anxiety. And a lot of that was because I was in the wrong environment, because I was in the wrong job, surrounded by the wrong people. So now that I understand that, now I understand more. I've done so much education on mental health over the past 5 years, I would say. I've done a lot of therapy, I've done my own research, I listened to a lot of books, lost a lot of podcasts. And I think that with low level anxiety and mood disorders, most of them can be changed with some self-awareness, with some self-development tools that you can, if you can change your circumstances, or if you can change your habits, if you can change your behaviors, a lot of those can be significantly improved. And I am living proof of that. Like, I for years and years and years struggled with anxiety. I was waking up at one point with like really severe feeling like someone was stamping on my chest kind of pain.
Oh, yeah.
And it was because I just wasn't listening to myself. I wasn't listening to things that I needed to do for myself. And unfortunately fell into depression and went through so many different variations of like panic attacks, burnouts, like all of the
Oh,
things
goodness.
that you can experience. And now that I've gone on my own journey of like trying to overcome that, because I'm very much a problem solver. Like, if I have a problem for myself, it's like I almost don't want to accept that there's a problem, and I'll just do anything to get over it and like anything to get through it. So instead of me falling into, like, I did fall into a really dark place at some point in my life, but instead of me thinking, oh my god, there's no way out of this, I was constantly looking for solutions, like constantly being like, I want to feel better, how do I make that happen?
Yeah.
So I tried so many different things to help me. I would say I've tried most things on, like, if you give like a list of resources for mental health, I've probably ticked most of the boxes. And I figured out what works for me. I figured out the routines that work for me. I figured out what makes me feel better. And I think if you can have, I call it like a mental health toolbox, if you can have a toolbox of resources that you practice on a regular basis, because the one thing that I will say about mental health is that it is absolutely not, there's no cure, it's all about prevention. So like, it's way harder to get yourself feeling mentally well again if you are already in a really deep depression than it is if you are consistently creating habits and behaviors for yourself on an ongoing basis that you will never get to like that lowest point. Yeah, your baseline might drop, but you're never going to get to that lowest point. And I think that's why a lot of people end up on medication, for example, because they haven't got any of those preventative measures in place. It's like they reach the rock bottom and then they really struggle to get themselves out, and then they need the medication to boost them up so that they can get themselves out on in a natural way as well. And I'm not against medication. I think it has a time and a place, but I do believe that there's a lot of things that we can do within ourselves and for ourselves to help us. So a couple of years ago, I kind of got to that point in my own healing journey where I felt like I really wanted to, I was very frustrated actually with the mental health system. The mental health care in most places in the world is really not up to standard. And a lot of people go without support and go without help because they don't know where to turn, two, that they're scared of getting the help, and three, it's just not accessible, it's not available, you're on waiting list for too long. And that's happened to myself, and it's been very difficult to get the support that I needed when I needed it, which is then why I ended up going on like the whole journey that I went on. So I actually created a resource a couple of years ago. It's called Time Is Not a Healer, given the concept that time is not going to heal us, it's what we do with time as the resource that's what's going to help. So Time Is Not a Healer is essentially a mental wellbeing marketplace platform where we have resources, educational resources, we've got products and content that destigmatizes and opens up that conversation around mental health, because it is still somewhat in some places a bit of a taboo subject. So that resource is there at the moment. That is kind of on pause because I haven't had time to focus on it so much, but it is a massive passion project that is going to be picked up from me and my business partner at a later date. But yeah, I'm very much passionate about sharing the impact that some of these things can have on you, on your body, on your brain, and all of the things. Because I've also gone through health problems that are linked to mental health, because ultimately, like, most of our serotonin is produced in our gut. So there's also a massive link between like mind and body as well. So I've done a lot of work on that, and I'm still dealing with some health issues that I have caused by stress, caused by the burnouts, caused by all of the anxiety that I've had for a long, long period of time. And it's not an overnight fix. You're not just going to come out of it overnight. So I'm really big on like educating on that as well, like through, that's why I talk about so much about burnout. Obviously, I mainly focus it around like business problems, like business owner problems, stress, anxiety, burnout, imposter syndrome, that kind of thing. But like generally, I'm a massive advocate for talking about and like getting support for mental health and doing it in a way that focuses on prevention rather than cure.
Yes, that's lovely. And I really respect your strength of character and your determination and how actionable you are on helping yourself, because you're right. The more that you're able to prevent and maintain, the less huge swings up and down you're likely to face. But obviously, it is personal, it is situational. And I'm so happy that you're able to get yourself into a healthier, better place.
Thank
And
you.
within the psychological and social health circles, there is a growing conversation around what are people supposed to do when your community is sick, when the systems and society is sick? And so it's really unfortunate that so many people are facing hardship and complications with their mental health. And it may not be a natural reflection of like what you're saying, of what may have happened if we had healthier systems, if we had better, healthier communities, better access to mental health and those types of resources. So it is a shame that so many of us are facing complications and difficulties just due to what's going on in society presently, which is, it's such a shame. It's part of the piece of why I'm also so passionate about helping people, just to try to help wherever I'm able to plug myself in as well. And it's really hopeful and beneficial to hear that this is a piece of how you help people because you have experience helping yourself. And even if someone just understands your story, that alone can help people understand that what is possible out there, like what resources exist that they can go to experts like yourself and others in order to get help. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you. I think it's all a lack of education at the end of the day, because we're not like, yes, our circumstances around us are constantly changing, maybe not in the best way, and we're
Yeah.
not able to get access to the support, cost of living crisis, all of the things. I know that there's a lot of like hardship and a lot of difficult situations happening in the world, and I think the biggest problem because of that is the lack of education, like
Mhm.
early on in our lives, around food, nutrition, how our body works and functions, like how all of the things are connected, and how we can look after ourselves in a better possible way. And I really strongly believe that all over the world that should be integrated into a school system, and we would have way less challenges with people struggling with their mental health, because the resilience would be way higher, the baseline would be way higher, we would be on neutral, we wouldn't constantly be on this like stuck survival flight or flight mode. We would constantly be at a baseline, and then when things like cost of living crisis happens, when things like, oh, we can't get a doctor's appointment or we can't do this happens, we're not going to suddenly be escalated up here, it's just going to be a little bump. So I think the best thing that could possibly happen right now is that the school system introduces better educational resources around these subjects.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Sign me up if you know where we can
I
help with that. I'm happy to
know.
help you.
Yeah, I know. I think there's still, I mean, there's conversation of it, right? Like in the UK, there's more conversations around it, but it's still not where it needs to be. It's really not. Like we're being taught
Yeah.
Pythagoras theorem instead of mental health. Like what? You
Yeah,
know, like
exactly.
is, I think the school system is very broken in the traditional sense, and there's a lot of improvements that could be made to make all of these things better.
Yeah, I agree. Another frustrating part is that some people start to get it, but they're just not quick. I need quick
Hmm.
action. I need people to be a little
Yeah,
zippier. So that also frustrates me as well.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
Time.
Is there anything else that you would like to highlight today or just help people understand if how they can work with you, how you can further help them? I would just love to hear what you're excited about and what comes next for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about basically expanding. Like, I'm really working at the moment on like sharing my story more, like something that I've like held back from. Because before, when I was coaching on a subject that was very external to me, it was e-commerce. It was my experience in the world, like of business. Like, I could coach very comfortably and easily. I could create content all day about e-commerce. It was like my backbone. I didn't have to think about it. It was just like I could do it with my eyes closed. Now I'm coaching on things that are very personal to me, and I have to be a little bit more vulnerable about that, right? And I don't have any problem talking to you or anybody else. I'm very open. I will tell you whatever you want to know. But like when it comes to putting yourself out there from a marketing perspective, that can be very challenging. So something I'm excited about is like feeling more confident with that and finding my rhythm with that and putting out the knowledge out there. Because even sometimes, like a couple of messages I got on LinkedIn this morning was like, oh my god, your story is really inspiring, thank you so much, da, 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 da.
Oh,
Like when I get messages like that, I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm doing the right thing by like talking about these things, like, and sharing this information, sharing this my experiences with that. Because like we said right at the beginning, I think expansion is one of the biggest things, and expansion can then lead to the self-awareness that we need to be able to do all of the other things, right? So yeah, like I'm really excited to put more content out there that speaks directly to that person, that version of me 5 years ago that was really stuck and feeling struggling in her 9 to 5, stuck in an environment that didn't really work for me, and shows people what is actually possible for themselves if they make the choice to actually change something about themselves. But ultimately, the one message that I like to get across is that you have to take action. Like, no one's going to do this for you. So it's all well and good me telling you, yeah, like this is what I did, but unless you choose to do that for yourself or choose to make a change for yourself, you don't need to go and become a digital nomad. You might just want to like wake up at 10 a.m. and go to your yoga class and start work in the afternoon, like whatever your version of freedom is, right? But you do have to make a choice that that's something that you want, and then you have to put actions in place to get there. I'm very action oriented, so everything that I do in my group coaching program, Freedom Model Method, everything I do on the one-on-ones and everything that I share on the podcast, it's all about taking actions and what's like one specific action that you can take today just to move yourself a bit forward. So if there's one action that I could share with your listeners today, it would be like, analyze what's happening for you right now. Like, are you really happy in like the situational circumstance that you're currently in, the job that you're in, the business that you've got? Like, what is happening? Like, become a little bit more self-aware today, and then you can start making changes to shift that if it's not something that you're happy with tomorrow.
yes, exactly. I love the power of your message. This is so exciting. And I'm so happy that we're connected now. And I really hope that people visit your site and obviously start connecting with you, listening to your podcast, and helping understand what's possible. So your message is very empowering and exciting. And I'm so happy to introduce it to my listeners, and hopefully they'll reach out and work with you as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for giving me the time to chat to you today.
Yes, I'm so happy that you're sharing your story. And where can people find you?
So people can find me at itsophiebiggerstaff.com and at itsophiebiggerstaff on most social media platforms as well. And then obviously it's the Remote CEO Life podcast on all good podcast platforms.
Perfect. And all of that will be linked in the show notes so people can really quickly visit you on all your sites.
Yes, absolutely. And I actually have a free masterclass and a free quiz for anybody that is thinking that they maybe want to shift into the world of online business, create more freedom for themselves. So that I can share the links with you for those as well, in case that's of interest.
Yeah, please. We'll absolutely have those in the show notes too. That's amazing.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I want to thank you so much for joining me this week on Forecasting for Success, and let you know that you can read the transcript for each podcast episode on my website, which is linked below in the show notes. I've also included the link to send me your money questions if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast at forecastingforsuccess.com/podcast. And if you're ready to get started on improving your financial literacy and developing your own personalized money plan, I encourage you to join my Forecasting for Success community, where I teach you everything you need to know about budgeting, how to choose your retirement number, how to invest in the stock market, and so much more. I go live in the community each month to check in on your progress and help answer any questions you may have. And it's a supportive community where you can also check in with other members and learn from their experiences as well. I hope you take good care of yourself, and I'll talk to you next week.